Hello, we're back with Boot Camp Basics, and today's topic is stress. And foremost, we should probably kind of give stress a definition, and without being rote memory here, pretty close to it, it's an event or circumstances that taxes that first and foremost an individual considers significant, right? So it's an event someone considers significant, but it pushes them to the limit. And by that I mean it taxes their resources for coping. And that's kind of pretty close to the clinical definition of it. We can get verbatim on that later on, but nevertheless, you get the point here. An event, you consider it significant, boom, but it pushes you beyond kind of your comfort zone is the easiest way to put it. There are three clinically recognized types of stress. One is called acute stress. Episodic acute stress is the second one, and the third one is chronic. And starting over here at the chronic stress, most people use the term chronic stress from its clinical definition. They use it incorrectly. The chronic stress can be associated, if you will, the easiest thing to think about it is PTSD. It's an event that happened that it was so traumatic it lasts a long, long time. Sometimes you don't even know what the event was so far in the past. It's just become embedded in your person, and it's kind of a constant misery. The other side of the equation, the acute stress, is something that would come along, just this event happened right now, and it pushed me to the limit, and then it's gone. And if I had one of those a day, you wouldn't even think twice about it. What most people consider or call chronic stress is truly it's the middle ground. It's episodic acute stress. And this is where you either are, in actuality, pushed to stressful circumstances or view things in a stressful manner to the point where you never get a chance to relax, right? Event one occurs at 9 o'clock. Oh God, I'm stressed out. I'm coming back down. 9:15, another one. 9:25, another one. And you just start building these things in this escalating manner. So you never get a chance to drop all the way back down to what you consider a de-stress level, right? Now, the thing to consider in stress as well is that there are stressors, or stress will be comprised of stressors. These will be the causes of stress, and they'll either be inside your control or outside your control. Remember that thought, because that'll come in handy towards the end of the talk. Now, I've given you a little graph here where some examples of stress. This will be money, problems at home, don't like my job, so on and so forth, right? Well, what happens is that stress becomes, in a roundabout way, an entanglement of all those things. It's a series of another number of things. So when I was saying, remember, we're talking about episodic acute stress here. This is what most people are suffering from. Boom, a series of events, boom, boom, boom. And if it was only that you had this event and couldn't quite come down and another one came around, it would be bad enough, right? But the problem with it is that one event would generally create another. There's cycles. And you can see here I've kind of illustrated that if you started out just having a stress, driving into work, boom, just had to avoid an accident, you're all stressed out, for half the day you have low performance because you got to be upset about it. And then that low performance leads to anxiety, all right? I didn't get my job done today. Boom. More stress will keep that cycle going, and pretty soon it escalates over into poor health. Now I'm worried about poor health and my money situation, or ruining my family, or what have you. So you see how all these things can snowball, for one thing, all right? Two disparate things, what appear to be two disparate things, are connected, right? So in this whole thing, it's important to understand the cause and the symptoms of stress, right? Stress in its own right is a cause and a symptom. It sounds weird, right? It's either one or the other. No, stress, as the terminology is it's either going to cause downstream problems, which might snowball, like we were talking about, or it's actually the symptom of something else. That's what I'm illustrating in this deal. The arrows are pointing in and out of stress, and it is simultaneously both the cause and a symptom of the bigger picture. This would be all of you, right? So you want to actually keep, speaking of all of you, another thing to remember is that stress is a personal thing. What you get stressed out about is much different than what your neighbor gets stressed out about, right? So you can't really equate the two. You have really no common currency or metric of measure of stress. It's really kind of a personal thing. And on that too, it's a dynamic thing. You can have, let's say somebody asked me a question today, and I took it in a wrong way, and I was stressed out. And now let's move ahead 6 months from now, and I get the same question, and I may not, in a whole different set of circumstances, and I may not get stressed out at all. So it depends not just on you, it depends on the time and the environment that you're in, right? That's the exact same thing, right? So in a roundabout way, like I said, there's no real measure of stress. This would be on the layman's terminology of it. It's hard to quantify, and like anything else, the best we can do as a society is to come back around and kind of equate it to money. And that's what this bottom slide down here is showing, is that it's estimated that $300 billion a year is lost in work productivity due to stress. And this is part of the larger $2 trillion that's lost due to, if you will, unwellness. So think about that. 10 to 15% of the gross domestic product is tied up in people who are stressed out, have chronic diseases. Literally, the one that's $500 million or $500 billion there is that they just don't care anymore, right? So there's something dramatically wrong with this, even with this measurement. It's a poor measurement because it's related to dollars, but nevertheless, that's what we have. So keep that in mind, is that this is not, even though it's a personal thing to you, it's part of a growing and bigger situation that shows up as a price tag that really is just mind-boggling, right? So we go on from here, and I want you to remember this signpost here, right? And have osteoporosis, rheumatoid arthritis, heartburn, I wish that was it, cancer, diabetes, get it. Make this the sign of all disease, the roadmap for all diseases right here. Stress contributes to all of these things, right? There's just no two ways about it. Stress as you perceive it, and I'll show you another slide here in a moment. It contributes to all diseases that are known. There's no two ways about it. It's either the cause of it or it exacerbates a disease. It's hard to treat because of those multiple causes, because all those cycles I was talking about. And so there's no pill that magically treats pill. And between you and I, in our lifetime, there never will be, right? I think some of you know I used to work in right on the edge of pharma there, and nobody's working on a pill that makes everybody happy. It just doesn't exist. Nobody ever will. So give that up right off the bat. I'll tell you how to actually make your own pills here in a moment, but we'll come on back to what this slide is. All these diseases connected at the middle through stress, right? There's an interconnectivity between stress, all diseases, and time. So what you might anticipate if you're stressed out long enough, right, it's going to lead to a stress-related disease or the exacerbation of a chronic disease. And I have other long-term consequences here that are non-disease-based, which you could probably imagine somebody just having a really, really bad day and going, I'm going to punch out. You get my point here. There's more to it than just disease, money, everything else. There's a lot of intra-personal conflicts going on that stress will create. So use that in its own mindset. Moving on to the next slide. And I want you to remember this signpost too, all right? I said it's hard to quantify, and that I tried to quantify it on the dollar system, all right? Being a chemist, I have to come back around and equate everything to chemistry. And it turns out that that's the way you got to look at everything, right? I wish everybody could, because it gets simple at that point in time. If we need a diagnostic for stress, we need to analyze biomarkers in your body. That's what I used to do, right? Pull blood out and analyze molecules for different purposes, right? And of course, I told you earlier, last slide, that we kind of take an approach towards molecular wellness. We can transcend beyond just how you perceive things into trying to equate it to at least some of the known biochemistry in your body. And so stress, if you talk to a person, they go, I'm stressed out because of, a frickin' rotten boss that I have, and I hate my job and everything else. If you talk to a molecule, go, hey, what are you stressed out about? And it's like, I frickin' reactive oxygen species are just driving me crazy. And that's called oxidative stress, right? And it's literally, in the true sense of the word, taking a molecule that should function correctly and stressing it out chemically to where it doesn't function correctly. Oh, wow, that's cool. And it's not just oxygen, but there's another one I have in here is hyperglycation, and this is sugar-coated proteins. Or proteins or molecules, but I'll always say proteins because that's what I analyze. So the way to think about this, take a normally just perfectly good protein, charging through time, doing my protein thing, and here comes oxidative stress, and it's like, bam, all of a sudden it attacks this arm or something. It actually create a different molecule, and it can't function correctly, right? And now here comes big old sugar coating, boom, and it's like, good God, just take me out of play. I can't do anything anymore. So these are true chemical modifications that you can measure and quantify, and I spent the better part of 20 years doing that, right? This would be on the molecular stress, as we call it. And what they do is clearly alter function in proteins to the point of where, so think about a protein, it has a job to do when you make it. It's there for a purpose. And now it can't do its purpose. In the best case scenario then is that your body gets rid of it, chews it up and throws it away, right? And makes a new one. In the worst case, before that happens, is it accumulates. It goes and does some damage, downstream damage. So you've got doing your job, not doing your job, and then basically loitering around and creating more damage down the line. So that would be a damage from accumulation. You see that a lot of times in arthritis. So you can see on these two slides down here, you got every disease known to man, and that's that signpost, hooked to oxidative stress, as well as glycation when it comes down to it. And the glycation is the sugar coating. On the right side, right in the middle there, with the healthy and the sick, this is the way I see things, just to explain to people. This is called a mass spectrum. And the green thing, what you're pulling out, what you're looking at here is ApoA1, which is part of your HDL, your good cholesterol. And when it's healthy, when you're healthy, you can see how it's a nice sharp green peak and a little bit of a peak before that, but really not much else. When you get into, if you will, pushed hard into oxidative stress as well as glycation, you get those red spectrum. So those are two people, a healthy person and that sick person, right? And we'd see this all the time. It's like people with diabetes and chronic cardiovascular disease. You start seeing this stuff, and it just builds and builds and builds. So here's chemical stress, molecular stress, starting to make you unhealthy. Hopefully not to the end point of death, if you will, because that's where this all ends up. But you can see how easy it is to take a look at somebody and go from the one finger to the 5 fingers and go, something's wrong with you, all right? So we could call this protein health. That's what I started calling it, and being conscious of it. And just for kind of layman terms, saying you have a healthy version of this protein or a sick version. On the ApoA1, by the way, although ApoA1 is part of HDL and it's viewed as good cholesterol, right? The cholesterol that is good for your cardiovascular system. That's in the caveat that you have the green version of the ApoA1. It's already known you start to lipid peroxidases, if not peroxidases, but if you will, oxidizing your apolipoproteins, which is exactly what you're seeing in the red one, turns good cholesterol into bad cholesterol without changing it from HDL to LDL. It's a bad form of good cholesterol. So we can talk for hours and hours about this, but I just want you to know when I'm talking about this stuff, the way I see things. That's hopefully part of our interaction with each other. It's not just what helping you out, but help me out try to explain this better to you, if you know what I mean. But we move on from there, and what we find out, we go into that signpost, coming back around that signpost and everything I just showed you, all those diseases related to oxidative stress, glycation. It's really if you look at enough people on this, you come to find out that this is a pre-pathology or pre-pathological situation that people get in. They come out of healthy, this would be due to the chemical stress, come out of healthy into this blob. And this blob is, you recognize as being obese and having high blood pressure and everything else. It's almost like everything's starting to break down. On the medical side, it's called metabolic syndrome, but that doesn't do it justice. Metabolic syndrome only takes it so far. So if you really want to call it, they become kind of globally, molecularly unhealthy, right? And like I say, it's realized at the molecular level, and it's a multi-system stress or imbalance. You're starting to break down. It'd be if you're in a car, the whole thing starts vibrating before you figure out whatever's going wrong. Maybe it's going to be you're going to throw the transaxle or something like that. It's like something's going wrong with the car. What is it? I don't know yet. And then bang, it's like we had a flat tire. That's what was going on wrong with the car. So being a multi-system situation, it sits right there. And like I say, if you remember that signpost, it is a signpost without any of those directions going on. All right? Those directions are the diseases as you well read them. The precursor to them, the doorstep to them is that signpost. So wrongly, we define in the US, we define our state of health relative to disease. So the way we define everything is we define it from the end of that point on diabetes, back here, and then down to the ground where it's good, right? Where you're healthy. Instead of from the ground up and out this way. Hopefully you follow me here. It's all backwards. And so if you guys can just entertain in your mind that you're supposed to be healthy but not sick, and you define things from a health side, you can see where it's very important that signpost, not the signs, but the signpost itself is very important to, if you will, be concerned with. That's a staging ground for Alzheimer's, for cardiovascular disease, for diabetes, and just go down the list. You can see them all. You got kind of a graph here, but you see what I thought was cool about this metabolic syndrome chart that I pulled out is that if you can read it, there's 2 of these 5 or 10 things that are on here are related to nutrition and fitness, right? I can't quite read it right now, but you get the point that what is the key, what are the key things relative to this unhealthy stage before you get to all these diseases? Fitness, nutrition. Okay, so you don't want to get metabolic syndrome. You don't want to get diabetes. Don't get metabolic syndrome. You don't want to get metabolic syndrome. Eat well. No, oh, we're still on? I thought I just finished everything right there. So moving on, our boot camp basics. Now let's talk about, I just got into trying to tell you what to do, like your mother. And if I can be so bold to give you some suggestions, right? Controlled stress, these are things that would go towards the bigger picture of relieving stress or trying to, if you will, avoid or combat or defend against the effects of it. And this would be both on the mental as well as the molecular level. Controlled stressors for benefits. Avoid this, and what I mean by that is avoid things that are inside your control that you know create stress. If you get stressed out because you get on Facebook, don't get on Facebook. If you get stressed out because you talk to this person and they're just an annoying person, just don't talk to them, all right? You're not rude. What you're doing is you're practicing part of a wellness routine. I.e., it's the same thing from when you're growing up. If you don't like it, you generally don't do it, right? So somewhere down the line, we figured that we'd need to respond to everything on Facebook, and that turns into a lot of argument, and that's just stress. Just screw it, throw it away, all right? Use acute stress to your benefit. This is called eustress instead of the other side of the coin, distress. Eustress, or using the stress to your benefit, really comes under the heading of doing something exciting, right? Downhill skiing would be one. It is a physical as well as a mental stress, but it's actually good for you for reasons that we will go into in the academy. But trust me, these transient stressors, and equate them with excitement or maybe even fear, being scared without fully getting in danger, if you will. Don't go out and wrangle a bear or something like that. But if you get scared transiently, believe it or not, that's good for you as a stress relief, right? Exciting things. They're there, they're gone, you get the benefits from them, right? General disposition. One thing I've noticed in people who are stressed out, universally, right, I can say, is that they have a shitty sense of humor. And all the way across the board, I cannot understand it. It seems to be a component of stress, you know. I know we're talking about type A over here a lot of times when Amy brings it up, but if I had to slot that out and put somebody in, it'd be somebody without a sense of humor. And it's proven all the way across the board that having a good sense of humor or taking things lightly, like in a humorous mode, is good for stress relief. Laughter is one of the best things you can do to relieve stress, biochemically. All right? I'm not talking about just, oh, it feels good. I'm talking you can measure it on those molecular levels. So, and what I mean by this in the sense of humor, and most of these people that I'm talking about, for whatever reason they lack it, but they don't try to get a sense of humor. And that's what I'm suggesting, is that you take things, not lightly, take everything seriously, but take the edge off of it. Try to actually see the humor in something, especially when somebody around you is humorous. It's easier to drag things down. I myself, I think I'm a fairly funny guy. I mean, I've been told it for years. But if I get surrounded by a bunch of people who are not funny or have no sense of humor, I'll just shut up. It actually, that's a more stressful thing for me. And i.e. stress is contagious back into me. I can't fight it anymore. So what you want to do is you want to actually try to make efforts to not be as cynical, not be as sarcastic, not be anything demeaning to other people, and view things with what they really are. And that a lot of them have a lot of humor in it, right? So try that. Just do it. You might actually feel better, right? Sense of coherence. This is a cool thing too. This would be your general disposition. And I've got a bunch of lines down here that are in phase, out of phase, and sometimes not even going in the same directions. Coherence means that you're in phase with things, right? And this could be your day, this could be your surroundings, this could be with your friends, what have you. Search for a sense of coherence with people and your surroundings and your circumstances. Don't battle them, you'll never win, right? Creates more stress. Search inside of whatever situation it is for something that you are at least partially in phase with, because it will take over. You'll be able to actually go further into whatever circumstance more enjoyably if you want to. We can talk more offline on that. It's really kind of deep, but nevertheless, I understand it more on physics mode. That's how a laser works, right? Boom, 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 boom. Everything's coherent and it's in phase with each other. All the light photons are. And without that, you wouldn't have laser beams, which we all consider very good, especially in Star Wars. Other things, mind, body. The single most effective stress relief activity that you can do is yoga. And I think that's proven all the way across the board. And you might think of yoga as just moving around, but it's really not. You got to do a lot of thinking about it too. So yoga, Tai Chi, breathing, especially even when you're doing your workouts on the 21-day fix workouts, gauge your breathing. Put your breathing in sync with the motions. Breathe. I'm going to do not just random breathing. You're controlling your breathing. That actually engages a system in your body that tends to be stress relieving, right? That forcing yourself to breathe at a certain time. Sports, you tend to lose yourself mentally inside of sports if you think about it, and so that's a mind-body thing. Music is a thing that a lot of people don't talk about. Listening to music is one thing, and that's good for you. Playing it is even better, because that is truly a mind-body thing. Any musical instrument, or almost all of them that you play, other than, I don't know, kazoo or something, but nevertheless, most of them that you play, you have to have some physical agility, muscle memory, as well as that would be the, let's just call it muscle memory. You're building muscle memory, mind to body type thing. And then lastly, and we've talked about this a million times before, and we'll talk about it a million times again in our separate breakouts, molecular anti-stress. This is what you're really doing, shooting for from a biochemist point of view through your program here, right? Your activities in your program. Nutrition, you're trying to balance your micronutrients to keep all of your systems healthy. At the same time, eliminate toxic elements, and not just elements, but toxic molecules, toxic foods. The most toxic thing that you eat on a daily basis is sugar, period. Drink a Coke, drink enough of them. It may not kill you as fast as cyanide, but it will kill you. That's all there is to it. That's where all those peaks in that mass spectrum I was showing you come from. Fitness, the thing that you don't realize about fitness, because we view it in the macro, moving around, I lifted a weight from here to here, is all the things that need to happen in your body in order for that for you to move the weight or move around. All the coordination, all the molecules, you fire up all the molecules that are necessary for that. And simultaneously, and this comes under that acute stress I was talking about that's good for you, is you initiate a little bit of oxidative stress. And when you do that, your body defends against it. And this is a cool thing, and I told you about a pill. Pharma's not making a pill for you, right? That does anything really for stress other than massive syndrome or the symptoms of it. Your body makes what goes towards the cause of molecular stress, right? Actually makes the antidotes for that. Oxidative stress comes on, but it's only going to come on for a peak. You're going to work out for half an hour, it's going to come on, then it's going to dissipate. You're not fueling it anymore. Well, what your body did when you hit a certain levels, it kicked off a whole bunch of enzymes that go out and start negating that, i.e. chewing up, getting rid of the oxidative stress, as well as repairing the damage from it. It's not just one thing, it's a whole slew of molecules that your body says, we're getting in a load of oxidative stress, kick the team out there to take care of it. What happens is you kicked it up and then you shut it off, right? But all these molecules are still running around for an hour or two later on, repairing everything. So the best thing you can actually do on a pharmaceutical level is make your own pharmaceuticals in your body, right, that go towards oxidative stress. And how do you do this? Exercise. Not a pill, it's a jumping jack. So with that, I think we're done for the day. And I enjoy talking to you guys, and hopefully there'll be many more of these. See you soon. Bye-bye.